you get the thumbs up? Good evening. Welcome to this special meeting of the New and Old Malden Neighbourhood Committee, whether here in person or watching on the webcast. My name is Councillor Leslie Heap and I'm chairing the meeting this evening. In the event of an emergency and the sounding of an alarm, the emergency evacuation procedure is to leave by the main staircase located behind me and congregate at the front of the building near the car park. Anyone requiring assistance should remain in their seats and an officer will assist you from the building. As a reminder to members of the public, the exit out of the building this evening is via the staircase located through the double doors you will see behind me. This meeting is being filmed for live broadcasts on the Council's YouTube channel and an archive version will be available to view on the Council's website after the meeting finishes. The broadcast will be suspended during any adjournments in proceedings and if the committee resolves to consider information as exempt business. Please can everyone present in the meeting ensure their mobile phones are switched off or in the silent mode for the duration of this meeting. So, who do we have here this evening? So, welcome to councillors. I'll get them to go round quickly, introduce themselves and their wards, starting over there with Councillor Thorpe. Thank you.
Councillor Richard Thorpe, Motsford Park and Old Malden East.
Hello, Andrew Bolton, Coomvale Ward.
Evening, Kamala Coogan, Independent Green, thank you.
Hello, Councillor Yvonne Tracy for Green Lane and St James Ward.
Councillor Lynn Henderson from Motsford Park and Old Malden East Ward.
Councillor Mark Tarrant from New Malden Village Ward.
Councillor Massimi for Old Malden.
Thank you. We also have a number of officers in attendance this evening to give an overview of the report and advice during this meeting. I'd like to introduce Matthew Hill. Just say who you are.
Thank you, Chair. Matthew Hill, Assistant Director of Highways, Transport and Regulatory Services.
Thank you. And next to him, I have Michelle Beaumont.
Hi, Michelle Beaumont, Corporate Head of Democratic Service and Elections.
And to my right,
Samuel Nichols, Democratic Services.
thank you very much. We have a period of no more than 30 minutes for questions on matters relevant to the committee.
What about Ralph?
Oh, I'm sorry. I apologise profusely. And we have our very important special neighbourhood manager, Mr. Ralph Hyde, at the end. Sorry, there's so many officers here tonight. I don't usually have this many. But thank you. If you'd like to introduce yourself, I apologise. I'll buy you a coffee.
I'll hold you to that. Thank you. Good evening. Ralph Hyde, New and Old Malden Neighbourhood Manager.
Thank you. We have a period of no more than 30 minutes for questions on matters relevant to the committee. We like to encourage questions to be submitted in advance so that officers have the opportunity to answer them. If members of the public so wish to ask questions on the special meeting report, this is the time to do so. So if you haven't already submitted a question in advance, please fill out one of the green slips. I understand we do have questions previously submitted, so I will invite each person to ask one question and you will be given the opportunity to ask a supplementary question, if it is appropriate. Any subsequent questions you may have will be considered only after all other residents have had the opportunity to ask their first questions, if time allows. I ask people to be concise as possible and please keep your question to under 2 minutes. That 2 minutes is for answering the question as well from the officer. If you wish to preface the question with a statement, please be brief and to the point. Sam will inform you when the 30 seconds is left and when the time is up. Okay, so if you're brief, then we can get in as many questions as we can. All right. If the questions cannot be answered at the meeting, then you will be provided with a written reply after the meeting. Okay. All questions come through the chair and not directed at the officers. and also members as well, please, through the chair. Thank you. First of all, I'd like to invite Zbigniew Blonsky to come to the table and to ask his first question. Thank you. Just if you get yourself settled in that, and then when you're ready, we will start the 30 minutes off. Sorry, the 2 minutes. Yeah. But the 30 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening. Why was the agreed pedestrian crossing in Kingston Road on the approach to the roundabout scrapped, and who made the decision to abandon this agreed proposal and under what authority?
Thank you, Matt.
Thank you, Chair. No scheme for pedestrian crossing has been scrapped and no decision has been taken. Funding was allocated as per the report to Place Committee in October 2023 for a scheme overview of roundabout reconfiguration, and strategic case for the scheme being to review the arrangements on Fountain Roundabout with a view to improving safety and access for pedestrians. It's an area with a notable cluster of collisions, many of which involve non-motorised users. Issues reported of pedestrians struggling to access the bus stops, particularly on the non-controlled arm across Kingston Road. The scheme will include significant engagement with stakeholders to work up options to improve pedestrian and cyclist protection. It is proposed to include a zebra and parallel crossing. This project will also incorporate New Malden High Street to review existing arrangements, including loading in partnership with the regeneration team.
Thank you. Is Lisbeth Mirabeau not here to ask questions? Because we're going to do them alternate, the questions. Is she not here tonight? Okay, all right then. Does anybody in the public have a question to ask? They don't need the green form. They do need the green form.
It's
My discretion.
It's your discretion, but are useful to have them because we can take. I'll take time.
The first gentleman, would you like to come forward? It's nice to have your details and then we can sort of, but please come to the desk, one of you. You both put your hands up, yeah? Thank you. Yeah, if you could just state your name and just introduce yourself briefly and then...
Graham Beresford, resident of Thetford Road.
So I didn't catch your name.
Graham Beresford.
Graham Beresford, thank you.
Resident of Thetford Road.
And your question, thank you.
I don't understand the motivation for the proposed changes. I've lived here for 20 years and I've never had any problem with pedestrian crossings. I know there was a death, maybe I'm guessing about 3 years ago. I think I wasn't a witness to the accident, but it seemed to be a very, very strange case because somebody seemed to have stepped out, which they could have done at any time in front of a vehicle.
Could you please ask your question?
What's the motivation? I'm explaining why I can't see the motivation.
Right.
And so for the proposed changes to the Fountain Roundabout.
Thank you very much. Matt?
Thank you, Chair. The scheme is to review the arrangements on Fountain Roundabout with a view to improving safety and access for pedestrians and cyclists and other non-motorised users. There's a cluster of accidents at the junction. I think from memory it's the second worst junction for accidents with vulnerable road users in the borough.
Thank you very much. Did you have a supplementary question?
That's a statistic which doesn't mean much to me. Accidents involving people or just car accidents or what?
Thank you, Chair. I'm just looking at my notes. So there have been 28 collisions recorded in the last 5 years in the vicinity of the junction, 1 fatal, 3 serious and 24 slights. Some of those are motor vehicle, but they're also pedestrians and cyclists as well.
Thank you, Matt.
Numbers?
I think he just said 28. The numbers. No, 28 in total.
Said, yes, but some. I'm asking about how many involve pedestrians. He said some.
I don't have that figure in front of me, Chair.
Okay, thank you. If you'd like to return to your seat, please, Mr. Beresford, and I'll call the other gentleman. Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening. I've just recognised who you are now.
Thank you. My name is James Stileman and I live in Westbury Road. So we are neighbours. I'm sorry, I'm new to this game, so apologies if I'm well behind the curve. I appreciate that we've got to move with the times and the traffic is very different to the way it was. And I just wanted to know whether the council is predisposed to keep a roundabout there. I'm thinking we've got a monument in the fountain, and I'm concerned that that's just going to, for pragmatic reasons, is just going to be removed. And I just wanted to know that you are intending to keep that, some kind of monument, the fountain. We haven't got very much in New Malden in the way of focal points. Is that your intention or not?
Matt?
Thank you, Chair. Just to be clear, we don't have a pre-dispensation, is that the right word? Sorry, we don't have a we haven't selected a particular option at this point in time. The objective of the scheme is to look to deal with the road safety issues for vulnerable road users, deal with traffic delays, but also as a specific objective of the scheme is to ensure we incorporate features to enhance the public realm of the area. So no, we haven't made any decision as to whether to retain or remove a roundabout, and if it came to such a point as there was a decision to remove a roundabout, I am sure that we would want to engage closely with the community to make sure that we had appropriate gateway features and, if that's the right word, public realm features as part of the scheme.
Wasn't quite my question. I wanted to know whether the council was predisposed to keep a monument that belonged to the town. I mean, is that your starting point? It'd be nice to keep it, or it just doesn't really matter whether it goes?
I think, Chair, I can only say we're not predisposed to any particular option at this time.
Okay, that surprises me and it's a bit disappointing.
Perhaps I could add, James, that the fountain hasn't worked for a number of years, and it is a piece of old fiberglass. I'm not wishing to decry it. It is a monument there, but we would be looking to replace it with something, and we would require funding for that once these arrangements and the safety of the roundabout, etc., have been sorted out. We can't put a new monument there if we haven't got to the basics of sorting out the safety issues. But we would bear that in mind,
Yeah.
what you say.
I think local residents would like to see it something reinstated. A fountain, it doesn't have to be another fiberglass thing that nobody can see, but, you know, and I reckon the residents would pay for it, like it was whenever it was the original one was made in, you know, nearly 100 years ago. I think it'd be a shame to get rid of these focal points in our community. And if you go on websites, it says that is the gateway into New Malden, that roundabout. For it to be just to be a crossroads would be a shame. It may have to happen, I understand that, but that's why I push the council to think what would you be doing for the community would be to retain a focal point. That's all I'm encouraging you to do, is not just to go the pragmatic route. Is maybe the slightly more difficult but the better route would be to have a roundabout. I mean, I like the French, no, what's it called, Dutch roundabout idea, because there was a focal point there still. And I certainly don't think we should have the old fiberglass thing. I think it should be much more Tuileries garden type fountain.
Thank you very much. No, we bear all your points
Thank
in
you.
mind.
Thank you for your
Yeah, that's the purpose
indulgence.
of this meeting, is for us to give ideas to that, but we will have a chance later on. Is anybody else, apart from Mr. Blonsky? Yeah, the lady with the black and cream jacket, if you'd like to come forward. Yeah. Thank you. Just introduce your name and that thing.
I'm Patricia Redmond. I'm sorry I'm a bit croaky because I've got a nasty bout of this flu. Anyway, the point that James made about keeping a focal point, aesthetically, that fountain is very much the centre of New Malden. When you go to the continent, you see so many places with fountains. And, you know, they make the town. I mean, why doesn't this council see that we not only need it, you know, aesthetically, but it's something that will bring people into the town? You know, because it's a pretty place, it's a nice place, trade will improve in the town, and nobody seems to be able to see this. It's almost as if New Malden is the poor relation to Kingston, and Kingston Council just don't give a damn about us.
Excuse me, do you have a question?
Well, why can't you see the aesthetic value of having that fountain? And yes, make the roundabout smaller if you must, but you must keep it. Why are you wanting to remove it? Why are we all sitting here discussing this fountain?
Can I just interrupt you there? We're not intending to remove it, and that isn't the purpose of this meeting. Okay?
Are you absolutely sure that you can tell us that it will never be removed?
There are no cast iron guarantees in life. The purpose of this meeting, which was called by Councillor Giles, who is not present this evening, was to get an idea about whatever Councillor Giles wanted to talk about, but he's not here to say it. And the office is here to answer questions that residents have. But the full report will be coming back to the March meeting next year. And then subsequent to that, we will have full engagement with all residents. And all residents in the neighbourhood will have the chance to express their views, say what they like and don't like, whatever. Okay?
Thank you.
I just
don't feel totally reassured about this.
But we have never said that we're getting rid of the fountain roundabout. So I just want
to get emails about traffic lights.
Who said that? I haven't said it, and nobody on this committee said it. But
well, maybe not tonight, but it has been going around that the council want traffic lights.
Unfortunately, hearsay is a bit of a dangerous thing, and you probably shouldn't pay too much attention to it.
Well, I'm so sorry I haven't brought a copy of the email that I received about all this.
Okay, well, not to worry about that. Do you have a question or a supplementary question before I move on to the next resident?
Well, that's been the main thing, as well as what's already been raised about the pedestrian crossing, because I've stopped driving and I need to cross the road at the Fountain roundabout, and, you know, you can't. You have to go further down the Kingston Road.
That will be taken into consideration.
Right.
The crossing, you mean, between Pearson Hards and Nando's?
Yes.
On the Kingston Road?
Yes.
That will be taken into consideration.
Right. Okay.
Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Thank you. Would the next resident like to come forward? If you could just introduce your name.
Charlie Bush.
Charlie Bush, yeah.
Charlie Bush. I live on Thetford Road as well.
Thank you.
I take 2 young kids to school every morning. We get the train from New Malden. We cross the road. There's never been a problem. On the days where I don't drop my kids at school, my wife does, I cycle, and I cross the Fountain roundabout every day. There has never been a problem. I also don't think that the statistics which were shared earlier by Matt are in any way frightening, given the volume of traffic which goes through New Malden. And we live in London, and accidents inevitably happen. But that's not my question, and I equally agree with the previous people that have also asked questions and their observations, so I won't repeat them. What I'm interested to understand in particular, though, is, for a start, this does appear to have been somewhat of a covert operation. Nobody has had this shared with them, at least me as a resident of New Malden. I have received information through the back door as to what is going on, and then I think the lady that just spoke referenced a document which was shared or circulated which said, we have finally seen evidence of what it is that is being proposed around this. And it does look as though the preference is for traffic lights as opposed to a roundabout, right? That's exactly what I have seen. Let me move to my question.
Oh, there is a question. Good.
Yeah, there is a question. Before I moved on and will inevitably have something read to me, which is a bog standard answer with no imagination put towards this. But what has changed since this was previously looked at, I believe, in 2016, and I didn't live in New Malden in 2016, I hasten to add, but I do understand that there was a huge movement of the residents that opposed to the implementation of this traffic light scheme. But what has fundamentally changed between when this was previously looked at, I believe in 2016, if the dates are wrong, I apologise, but I know that this has been previously looked at, and now? The government does not have £5 million today. In fact, it definitely had £5 million, which is, again, the number that's been kicked around, far more readily available to it than in 2016. The country is now allegedly broke. Everybody is paying higher taxes. And yet this council seems to have £5 million to be able to throw at something which is, frankly, entirely unnecessary and could be made safer for both pedestrians and cyclists without needing to change a great deal of the infrastructure. But could somebody please give me not a red answer off of an iPad, a genuine answer as to what has changed between when this was previously looked at and now? That's what I'd like to understand.
Matt? Yeah.
Are you going to read to me, Matt, or are you going to give me a
If you'd let the
genuine
officer answer the question.
Yeah, by all
please.
means.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
What I would say is that the previous scheme was considered and rejected by the council in 2016.
I know, but why?
That's 8 years ago. At that time,
What's changed?
What's changed since that time? Well, we've got 8 years more accidents. We've got 8 years more
but we live
time.
in London, so
we've
it's
got
inevitable
We've got
that there will be
years
accidents.
more time when cyclists have not been able to travel safely around that roundabout.
I'm a cyclist.
Okay.
I travel around the roundabout.
With respect to you, sir. With respect
Can you
to
come
sir,
through the chair?
You're not the only
talking
cyclist.
to the yeah.
But the London cycling campaign rejected
and we've
the
got
previous
a Vision Zero objective to remove all road casualties in London by 2041. That's new since 2016.
It's completely unrealistic that you will ever remove... I work in the insurance industry. Motor insurance, I'm afraid, is there as a statutory part of insurance because road accidents are inevitably going to happen until we maybe move to autonomous vehicles in God knows when. And having recently been in San Francisco, that is not going to be
Do you have a
coming to this
question?
country.
A supplementary
my question hasn't been answered. My question hasn't been answered.
We have to look at the safety of pedestrians and cyclists.
But
and
is
I
there
think
not...
that...
Sorry,
Are
carry
you
on.
going to let me speak?
Yes, yeah.
In 2016, it was rejected by the council because the Kingston cycle campaign, they didn't think it was safe for cyclists or anybody else thought it was safe for pedestrians, as far as I can remember. I wasn't a councillor then, okay? And none of the people here were councillors then. So we've moved on now. We're 8 years down the road. There have been accidents. There's been one fatality there, as you mentioned. That's one too many.
Agreed.
I don't care how it was caused, whether a person didn't look or it was a vehicle or whatever. It's one too many. And going from Nando's to Pearson Hard, you wouldn't cross there in a million years. It's positively dangerous.
I cross there regularly.
Well,
it's
it may be easy for some, but for others, it is not very safe there. And
I'd also like to make one other observation, which is that there is a very strong piece of research, which I found through a very brief Google search, and I'm sure there is plenty more to it, that shows that actually traffic light systems are far more dangerous than roundabouts. And I'd be very happy to circulate that. It was conducted by, I think, Oxford University.
I think you emailed that to me, didn't you?
I
You
can't remember
emailed
if I
me.
I may well have emailed
You did.
Leslie.
You sent me
I
the
wasn't sure if that was
attachment.
you or who
When
I
we-
was emailing. I was emailing a generic email address, I think.
When we have the engagement with residents and everybody, you'll be able to put all these points and have your say and all the rest of it.
Good.
You know? So it's not, and it wasn't covert at all. That may have been put around by certain parties, but it certainly wasn't the intention, and it certainly wasn't the administration's intention to do that.
I speak.
So I'd like to put that straight, please.
I do speak to many of my neighbours, and I have many friends that live in New Malden, nobody has told me that they have had this transparently shared with them in any way. I don't know how one would have found out about this particular initiative were it not for the fact that there was a fairly active community that have picked things up through various means. Can anybody tell me how I would have had this information pushed to me rather than having to find it?
It would come to consultation when we have all the facts and figures brought to committee in a report. And that will happen, I believe, at the March meeting next year. Okay? Okay. Everybody be able to come, have their say again, and everybody will know about it, and then you'll have public engagement. And the options will be put on the table. No options have been chosen at the moment.
Good.
Okay?
I've taken up too much time, and I'm sure there's plenty of others.
Thank you very much for your question. Thank you. Anybody else, before I go back to Mr. Blonsky, who had another question? Mr. Blonsky? Would you like to come to the desk? Thank you.
Well, Madam Chair, I think basically a lot of the responses just create more and more questions.
So could you get to your question, please?
I'm allowed a comment, I hope, as others have been. And, you know, it's quite frustrating because, as the previous speaker questionnaire raised, the responses don't really address the questions that we have raised. So let me give it another go. What has happened with the money that was allocated for the installation of the crossing, and who made the decision to allocate the money on alternative spend and under what authority? Money was allocated. That money has been spent, has it? And what has it been spent on? And who decided this?
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I'm reluctant to repeat everything of my first answer to Mr. Blonsky, but just to be clear, Transport for London local implementation plan funding has been allocated to investigate road safety at the roundabout, and that funding has paid for the necessary studies to be carried out.
I'm talking about the crossing that was approved previously and funding allocated for that. And, you know, I tried to repeat my question so it's simple and clear, but all you're doing is generalising every time. You're saying, oh, this will be considered in the future. The evidence will be considered in the future. What you're not understanding, and this isn't a question, it's a statement, that local community in New Malden is very concerned about this because these proposals have been tucked away in a lip which is incomprehensible to 99% of residents. And by the time it comes to public consultation, you will have worked up different options. You won't have engaged in a preliminary way in terms of developing potential options. In terms of the evidence, you know, in terms of saying that, you know, you have to make the junctions safe. There is no accident-free, I think Matthew Hill said. It's not the reality that any of us live in. If he'd like to give examples of junctions anywhere in London being traffic light junctions or roundabouts that are accident-free, it would be very interesting to share that information.
Thank you, Chair. Just to be clear, what I said was that in 2018, well, I didn't say in 2018, but I'm adding that in now, the Mayor of London introduced Vision Zero for London, and the ambition of Vision for Zero is to eliminate serious injuries and fatalities on London's road network entirely by 2041.
Yeah, but you said something previously to that, which was to make it accident-free, and then you later on said that. But that's only one of the points that I'm raising. But, you know, we're not getting any answers. And, you know, you are, instead of creating an attitude of openness, and trying to move together in the future and trying to get engagement with local community to actually explain what you're trying to do in a positive sense. You're doing the opposite. You say you don't understand reaction and this rumour mongering and whatever, but you need to think about why this is the case and reflect on it.
I think we all understand very well your comments. Okay? Thank you. Would you like to ask another question? Come to the desk, please.
I think the previous gentleman was talking about some other scheme some time back. The fact that the mayor has made money available, does that mean you have to spend it?
What do you mean by that?
Well, Matthew is saying that his answer is that money has been available as though your council is obliged to spend the money that he has made available, regardless of, you're going to do something. You're just kind of obliged to do something to demonstrate that to the mayor, that you can do something.
Matt?
That relates to my previous question about the motivation.
Thank you, Chair. No, we are not obliged to spend money that is offered to us by the Mayor of London. But if it's not, well, no, just leave it there. No, we're not obliged to. No. But the alternative would be not to spend money in the Borough of Kingston. So,
seems like a job creation scheme.
I mean, Matthew, if you just want to sort of outline, the money comes from TfL. If we get the money, the scheme will go ahead, or we will go ahead with the improvements. If we don't get the money, then it won't be. Is that right, Matt?
His answer started with the money that TfL have made a budget available for and a target. But the motivation...
Yes, but as you realise, perhaps you don't, that TfL are very strapped for cash themselves. You know, and there's all other boroughs...
I'm not sure that's relevant to the question. The question is about the motivation for making the change, which is either based on real statistics, preferably about pedestrian injuries rather than vehicle collisions, which are bound to happen, little shunts at the roundabout and so on, and whether actually what's happening is that money's made available and the town planner thinks, great, I've got something I can work on.
Do you understand? I don't quite understand what you're saying, actually.
I mean, Chair, what I would just say is that we are not obliged to spend the Mayor's money. The Mayor makes money available to boroughs to implement his transport strategy. Our transport strategy is aligned to his transport strategy, and we have similar objectives. The primary objectives for this particular scheme are to deal with road safety. They're not about spending money for the sake of spending money. It would seem remiss of us not to take the opportunity to attempt to attract money from other organisations to fulfil our objectives.
Thank you. Yeah, because we haven't got much time, but if you're very brief, you might get an answer as well. Thank you.
If this is about road safety, with the potential opening up of the left turn into Thetford Road that's part of the proposals, has it been taken into consideration that there is a school for primary school children on that particular road? The study.
Matt?
Thank you, Chair. I would just answer that by saying we haven't taken any decisions about any opening up of any left turns or not.
Okay, but it is
clearly
option
we would look at
9 in that document.
Yeah, indeed. I think it's one of the supplementary options. Yeah, and if that were to come forward, we would look very closely at the pros and cons of that and engage with the local community. And of course, that would involve knowing where schools are.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, any more questions? Briefly?
If no one else, well, I have a minute.
You have a minute. Quick question. Don't like to not have our full value of 30 minutes.
Yeah, my question is about LIPS, and I think it would have been helpful to have been given proper explanation for residents here what the LIP process is and the aim is, which should have been quite straightforward. But my question is about the LIPs, which I previously submitted, which was how many other London boroughs consult on the LIP before submitting it with their community, and why does not Kingston Council do this?
Thank you, Chair. Firstly, I'm not going to comment on the approach of other councils and how they choose to engage with their
sorry
local
to
communities.
interrupt. I just said how many.
I can't
That's
answer
all.
that. I can't answer that question.
I'd submitted it in writing.
I can't answer the question
things in
as
advance?
to what other boroughs do in terms of consultation. That's not for me to answer.
Who would answer that?
Okay, what I can tell you is that our annual LIP funding bid, and LIP stands for Local Implementation Plan, to be clear. Our annual LIP funding bid is based on our Local Implementation Plan 3, which was fully consulted on and approved by the council in 2019, and it was fully consulted on and engaged with the community at that time. The annual LIP funding bids are consulted with neighbourhood committees before being approved by Place Committee, before they're submitted to Transport for London, and any individual scheme is subject to the appropriate level of public consultation for each phase of the project, as and when we get funding allocated.
The question is simply about priorities and sharing in the community. What are infrastructure priorities to improve transport? And good practice is to actually engage with the community. 2019, you made a big deal about time passing on, circumstances changing, but they're not relevant in this situation, but they were convenient and relevant for you to refer to that. Is that so?
Sorry, Chair, I'm not sure I fully understand that follow-up question, but the point is that our current local implementation plan is based on Local Implementation Plan 3 that was fully consulted in 2019. Now, I accept that's 5 years ago, but that is the cycle that is set from the Mayor's transport strategy.
Thank you.
Thank you for another unsatisfactory response.
That's the end of the 30 minutes time period. Thank you for all your contributions. The questions that were not dealt with this evening will receive a written response. Moving on, apologies. Are there any apologies for absence, Sam, for this evening's meeting?
Yes, Chair. Apologies from Councillors Kim, Sillett, Park and Giles.
Thank you. Members are asked to declare any disclosable pecuniary interests or any other registrable and non-registrable interests relevant to items on this agenda. Do any members have any declarations of interest? Please indicate now by raising your hand. No? Thank you. So, this is a special meeting report under procedural Rule 22 of the Council's Constitution. A special meeting of the New and Old Malden Neighbourhood Committee has been convened to consider the Neighbourhood Highway Scheme relating to the Fountain Roundabout and the New Malden High Street. The provision outlined in the Council's Constitution permits a quarter, that's 25% of the membership of the committee, to request the calling of a special meeting to discuss a particular matter. The committee is receiving a report for information. I propose that the information contained within the report be noted. Do I have a seconder, please?
You do, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Henderson. I'd like to introduce Matt Hill, Assistant Director of Highways and Transport Regulatory Services, to summarise the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So the report is really just to update the committee as the request of the special requisition as to where we are with this project at the present moment in time. I won't read out the full submission from the councillors, the full requisition, because that's printed in the report. All I really want to say is I think we've said a lot of this already. The current position is that we are still at an early stage of this project. We're undertaking options assessment. We haven't committed to any particular option at this present moment in time. We are committed to the full public engagement, starting with a committee meeting in March. And that's probably all I need to say at this point, and I'm happy to take questions.
Thank you very much. So I know some of you have made comments already, but are there any other comments from the public?
We had Mr. Andy Allen who wanted to speak.
Oh, yes.
Oh, okay.
James Darman. Which was Andy Allen?
For clarity, this is the Fountain Roundabout Improvements Report. Is that the report you're talking about?
I don't.
Chair,
I
I'm
don't
referring
know.
to the committee report that's been.
No, he's referring to the committee report as set out in the papers. They're on the chair. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so can you just be clear what this is?
I don't know what it is because I can't really see it.
Chair, I think that's a report that was shared with the ward councillors to update them on the position of the scheme.
What?
Sorry.
Can you understand why we get very, we're all kind of thinking, what on earth's going on? You either know what this is or you don't. So are you, councillors, Chair, sorry, can you on behalf of the council say, are any of you aware of this report? Okay, here. Chair, can you understand how confused we all are?
But where did you get that from?
There is a very, very detailed and expensive report circulating with proposals on it, with crossroads and Dutch roundabouts. So I don't know where it's come from, but it's existing. If you don't know anything about it, you can disown it. Fine, please.
I'm not disowning it. I just couldn't see what it was from where you're sitting. But I shall let the officer. Yeah. I'm aware of this briefing that was given to members of the committee.
So who's briefing
and
who?
The present proposal, which is still in development to allow early input, okay? I don't...
Well, see,
it's a work in progress, and this is just the very first steps of it.
but my point is, and it's got a question attached to it, my earlier question was, is there any consideration for the monument, the focal point of the fountain in the Fountain Roundabout? Is that on your radar at all? That document would suggest it isn't, because it's not even mentioned. It's all about safety and access.
Could you let one of the officers reply to you?
Yeah.
You can have your iPad.
Chair, with regard to
I'll collect it in a second.
the infrastructure, the Fountain Roundabout, the regeneration team have proposals of upgrading, changing, introducing a new sculpture, but obviously none of that work can go ahead until there's the final decision next year about what will happen. And remember, and if you look in the document, the privilege document you've got, one of the options is do nothing.
Mm.
Thank you, Ralph.
So it's okay.
Is that clarify the point?
Not really, but
Thank you. Any more comments before we move on?
Andy Allen from Kingston Cycling Campaign.
Andrew.
Oh yeah, sorry, I said Andy Allen, but Andrew.
Andrew Allen. Thank you. I wondered who Andy was. Allen.
Oh, and it's Andy. Yeah. Yeah. Hi, I'm Andy. I'm here tonight to represent the Kingston Cycling Campaign. Analysis published just last week by the London Cycle Campaign, based on the latest Stats 19 collision data, showed that the Fountain Roundabout is in the top 10 most dangerous junctions in the borough for cycling, and rated as the single most dangerous junction in the whole borough for pedestrians. Also, completion of the Kingston Road cycle route was approved by Place Committee earlier this month. This will lead to a step change in the number of people cycling on Kingston Road, but unless substantial improvements are made, this risks a step change in the number of injuries at the Fountain Roundabout. So it's clear to us that improvements to this junction do need to be made. We welcomed the proposal to add pedestrian crossings on Kingston Road arm of the roundabout. We actually have a close interest in this, since we have our monthly meetings at the Kingston Environment Centre. And personally, I'm often scurrying across Kingston Road to get there. A proper pedestrian crossing is really needed. However, we wanted the council to make sure that they were planning things in a joined-up fashion. We wouldn't want to see 100 grand spent on adding a pedestrian crossing if it turned out to be not quite in the right place to fit in with a larger junction safety scheme, perhaps only a year or two later. It would be very disappointing to put it in and then have to rip it out and move it 5 metres and put it back in again later. As for the wider scheme, we thank the officers for sharing their concept designs with us at the end of last month. There were 9 different concepts with a mixture of junction layouts and levels of protection. We shared our initial feedback on the concepts. We want to ensure the plans minimise the use of shared space, protect cyclists from the dangerous volumes of heavy traffic, and that the scheme joins up with the existing protected routes both on Kingston Road and also on Malden Road. But at this stage, we're not at the point where we could support or oppose particular draft concepts. We look forward to seeing the various concepts as they're further developed into more detailed designs. There is an ongoing risk to pedestrians and cyclists for every day that passes, so we would ask officers to be mindful of their timelines and to examine which parts of the scheme, like the pedestrian crossings on Kingston Road, could be implemented expeditiously. Thanks.
Thank you very much for your poignant comments there. They're very useful. I hope everybody could hear through the mic system. Thank you. Anybody else wish to make any comments? And then I will move on to members. So this is still the public. They want to make any, want everybody to have their voice tonight? No? Okay, so moving on to members, if you have any reports. Councillor Tracy, your hand was up first.
Thank you, Madam Chair. If I may, I'd like to just say what I feel, but I'd like to read a brief statement from Councillor Giles. He said, despite being one of the 3 independent councillors who managed to force the council's hand for this meeting to take place, I am boycotting tonight's meeting. I acknowledge there will be some in the gallery disappointed, though I imagine lots of Liberal councillors will be glad I'm not here. The reason I'm boycotting tonight's meeting is a simple one. An A20-page document exists outlining the various plans for the, quote, reconfiguration of the roundabout. Despite this being the key document to this discussion, the council continues to refuse to release it as public papers. The council has continued to keep this information secret from the residents that it is supposed to represent. As a result, tonight's report is written by officers and it contains no substantive information for members, and we are just simply asked to note the report for information, so there is nothing to debate properly. As a result of the council's failure to disclose information to the public, they have ensured that this meeting is nothing more than a talking shop and is frankly a waste of time. Time for the chair, time for councillors, waste of residents' time. The council says that this issue will come back to a meeting in March 2025, and they told me that this special meeting is premature. But just because I'm boycotting tonight's meeting, that doesn't say we're rolling over or backing down. Far from it. We are going to continue to lobby the London Assembly members and the Mayor not to give the council £5 million, because it's clear that Kingston Council are doubling down and will ignore whatever we say or do. But if we convince TfL and the Mayor not to fund the scheme, it can't go ahead. Thank you, Madam Chair. That's from Councillor Giles, but I'd like to say something, if I may, as myself. What makes me so sad is that the residents of New Malden have waited 8 years for a crossing to be put in on Kingston Road, just for the roundabout to be maintained properly, and that's all we wanted in New Malden. In the time that the council have spent hundreds of thousands of pounds on consultations and competitions for which there's no funding in place to complete the outputs. But last year, I thought common sense had prevailed when it was voted by us councillors to spend the £100,000 that we actually did have to build a crossing on Kingston Road. I really could have cried when I heard a few weeks ago that the money was to be spent on a new crossing had now been spent on more consultation, and that we had gone back to where we were 8 years ago and everything is back on the table. If only a fraction of what has been spent on talking about the roundabout over the last 8 years had been spent on doing something, we could have had a beautifully maintained maintained roundabout and a crossing on Kingston Road. And the Fountain Roundabout is an historic icon and the gateway to New Malden. The majority of New Malden residents want to keep the roundabout. Why is it? Why do we have to wait until Councillor Giles let the cat out of the bag that the council have decided that what we knew, that they actually consulted with Kingston Go Cycle, but that's all the council did consult with. I presume that the Go Cycle would be pro getting rid of the roundabout. Surely the people who live in New Malden are just as important. When will the council actually listen to the people who live in New Malden and not just speak to them as an afterthought because it's now been forced on them? Let's be honest.
Thank you, Councillor Tracy. I think you've had your say. Matt, would you like to just come back on the point that Councillor Tracy raised about a waste of money on the roundabout to do with the competition were you talking about?
Yes, that's one of the wastes.
Right, if you could come back with those figures that are in the questions, Matt, that would be helpful. Thank you.
Chair. So the council did allocate money through the regeneration team to run a design competition for the public realm at the roundabout. That has been done, that money has been spent, and that project is, for want of a better word, in abeyance for the moment while we work up preferred designs for the road junction, which will then give us a better idea as to what space we can dedicate to public realm, which we remain committed to improving the public realm at the roundabout as well.
Thank you. Did you want the figures, Councillor Tracy? Well, we've got them.
Well, yeah, okay, if you've got them, yeah.
Because people are interested. Thank you, Matt. I've got them in my papers if you want.
You're after the figures for the design competition, and is that what? Yeah.
You said where it came from, Sil and.
Yeah. So the design competition was £25,000 was spent, and then we spent £29,000 on what we call a REBA Stage 2 architectural feasibility study, and this money was funded by a combination of regeneration budgets, Section 106 money from developers, and Neighbourhood SIL funding, which was allocated by this Neighbourhood committee. I don't have the breakdown between the three, I'm afraid.
Thank you. So, any other members? Councillor Durrant.
Can I just say, I think it is a shame. It is a real shame that Councillor Giles feels fit not to come and listen to you this evening. I am here. I will always listen to residents of New Malden, and that is why we're going to do a proper consultation on this. And at every stage, you will be consulted about this as well. And I think
they haven't been consulted so far at the early stage, have they?
This is going to come to a full consultation, and actually I may ask that as a question, just so that to officers, just to kind of double check that, that we will have various stages of a consultation, and by that I'm not just talking about committee meetings, but hopefully we can also have additional meetings and online consultations in the way that Kingston Council is very, very good at doing. And
please don't shout out, please.
And
let the councillor
obviously
finish.
Time has passed, and I think it is important that we also, if you have a second as well, this is Councillor Massini to pass me on to this as well. If you go to a site called crashmap.co.uk, go and have a look at that. You will see a very significant number of accidents happening around the Fountain Roundabout, which is the reason that we're going to do this as well. So I put it back to the officers that we make sure that we have a full and proper consultation in this process. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Durrant. Matt, thank you.
Chair, yes, I'm very happy to confirm that we fully intend to have a full public engagement and consultation exercise while we develop this scheme.
Councillor Bolton.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thanks to everybody for coming. Now, as it happens, I was actually involved when I was much, much younger in the campaign to save the Fountain Roundabout in 2016, alongside James, known to his friends now as Councillor Giles, but before we were both councillors, obviously. So I'm well aware of the strength of feeling that residents have in terms of wanting to keep the roundabout. So that's my background. And as far as I know, and as you can see, I'm a member of this committee, as far as I know, absolutely no decision has been taken whatsoever on what the future shape of the Fountain Roundabout will be. All that I'm aware of is some suggestions which, as has been quite well pointed out, will be consulted on later. So it's very much, okay, you might not like the thought that it's still, in a sense, up for grabs, but that's the point of the consultation. Then you'll be able to say exactly what you want, and if you want to keep the Fountain Roundabout, I'm sure that you won't find yourselves standing alone in that regard. But there is actually, if you forgive me, but just to refer back to Councillor Tracy when she was reading out what Councillor Giles said, I kind of missed it actually. It was a lot to take in, but Councillor Giles seems to have made some reference to some document that's been kept secret, and therefore he didn't see any point in coming to this meeting. I didn't really understand that. So are we aware of some document? Do we know what Councillor Giles is talking about, basically?
Can I explain what I'm talking about? Because I realise you don't actually know
Through
about
the chair,
this.
please.
Oh, sorry, Chair. When I say we, some of the councillors in New Malden were on a call for an update on the Fountain Roundabout a few weeks ago. I thought it was to say when they were going to put the crossing in, but it wasn't. We were told about all these proposals, and we were told at this meeting, and I think it's probably been recorded, so you can check the facts, we were told you are not to tell the residents about this. Now, that's what... So, and tonight, we're not supposed to be discussing this, actually. That's my complaint, that you're saying you're being all open and above board, and yet we were told we weren't to discuss this, and my understanding was that £100,000 last year, as councillors, we voted on to put a crossing in. And if the Fountain Roundabout is so dangerous, why did we not use that money to put the crossing in? We had the money. Now we've got to go back to TfL cap in hand and see if they'll give us money. When we could have had this crossing, it could have been built already. We've had 8 years of consultation. How much do you want to talk about?
Chair, if I could just come back, thank Councillor Tracy for that answer. I was just simply asking for clarity. I wasn't sure exactly what she had meant when she said there was a secret document, but I see that that's what she means. Thanks.
Councillor Durrant.
Thank you, Chair. I think we should also remind ourselves, because I also sit on the Place Committee, that Councillor Giles asked on the Place Committee for the complete removal of this item out of LIP as well. So I think we should remember that. So that would have meant absolutely no changes whatsoever to the Fountain Roundabout. What we are doing is we're going to put forward suggestions for you to improve the safety and the public realm when we come to that, so that you can all have your say. What Councillor Giles was suggesting is the complete removal of this item from the LIP funding. I think we should remember that.
Thank you. Good point, Councillor Durrant. Anybody else? Councillor Massimi, any comments? You're not usually backward in coming forward. That's why I'm asking you.
Good evening, Chair. And
thank you.
If you ask me, I'm going to make a comment which is very light, just to relax the air. Well, I'd like to thank the Rotary, which I'm a member of, for having actually paid for the sculpture in a roundabout and trying to maintain it over the years. It's not historical, but I invite every resident to be very generous around Christmas, because they do a lot of things for the local community in New Malden, Old Malden and elsewhere. And whatever happens with this junction in the future, I know we cannot please everyone and we will never please everyone, but we need to try to do what's best for the general community and for anyone visiting the place or passing by. I have no particular desire of any scheme, nor I think it's time to talk about it, but thank you for the Rotary for that, and I like the passion in the rooms. Being in favour or against, it's good to see people that are engaged and really care. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Massimi. Councillor Coogan. You'll go now. I'm inviting you to speak.
Thank you, Chair. Just one question and an observation. The question is, if we had put the crossing in, would we have now looked back on a much better safety statistics? That is my question. And the observation is, the residents, like as Mr. Bush, I think the young gentleman there asked, what was the pressure for change? And we've really not given them an answer, and I think that is a bit unfair. Because at the last meeting, if my memory serves me correctly, the pressure for having that meeting was to meet the TfL deadline to bid for that 5 million. And it seems that we are prioritising sort of securing funding rather than actually delivering, the outcomes, what residents need and want, like safety and their concerns about keeping the heritage spots and things like that. So we need a time, before the next consultation, we need a clear timeline, exactly all the twists and turns, all the meetings that we've had, so that we really have one narrative, one version of the truth, not all these us, starting to have a little bun fight among ourselves, because that doesn't serve anybody. Thank you.
Matt, would you like to come back on that? Thanks.
Thank you, Chair. I'll just come back on the first point, and I would just say, if we had installed a crossing just on one arm of the junction, then that would likely have had a positive impact on road safety on that one arm of the junction. But there are four arms of that junction, and if you look at the accident stats, they are evenly distributed across those four arms of the junction. So it would be, in my view, remiss of us to take too narrow a view at this junction. I do accept the comment that was made earlier that there's a balance there between taking too long to study the wider area and not deliver a scheme on one particular arm of the junction. But clearly the accident stats show that the road safety issue is not restricted to only one arm of the junction.
Did you have a supplementary question?
Can I just come back briefly? If that's the case, then maybe we should look at, ways of making it more safe at other roads as well. Because as far as I'm aware, people right along the end of Burlington Road are not even aware of this consultation or the council roundabout, because they're in a different borough. So I don't know what's happening here. Thank you. I think that there's a lack of clear communication, a lack of clear understanding who the stakeholders are, and a clear lack of understanding exactly what we are trying to achieve. So I think everything's a mess. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Coogan. Anybody else got any comments before we close on this meeting? Thank you, Councillor Tracy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to say, let's just keep people informed and let's not have all this secrecy, because the people of New Malden deserve to know what's going on. And if we hadn't leaked it, as it were, and we're, unpopular for doing that among certain councillors, but you should be told. You should be told. So let's have honesty.
Thank you, Councillor Tracy. Right, so we have noted that point. Councillor Durrant, one more comment. Thank you.
Of course, we will have honesty. We will consult with you all the way on this, because it's extremely important to New Malden. So I do want to say that we will be coming back to you probably in March, April next year with a full range of options as well. And these will be on the table rather than the other option, which was to completely remove the idea of getting things improved in the first place. So I do think that, that is an important point to make. Thank you.
Thank you. So we have noted that, and we do not have to comment further on that. Thank you, everybody, for your contributions this evening. Comments? What? To note the report, which we have done. And now we'll have a short adjournment before the next meeting. So those people, members of the public who want to leave, can leave. If you want to stay for the community grants items, you're very welcome to. And for members or anybody who wants to go to the toilet, now is your chance.
You can just tell you the time of the meeting ends.
And the time of the meeting has ended at 20:36. Thank you. Part 2. Good evening. Welcome to this meeting of the New and Old Malden Neighbourhood Committee, whether here in person or watching on the webcast. My name is Councillor Leslie Heap and I'm chairing this meeting this evening. In the event of an emergency and the sounding of an alarm, the emergency evacuation procedure is to leave by the main staircase located behind me and congregate at the front of the building near the car park. Anyone requiring assistance should remain in their seats and an officer will assist you from the building. As a reminder to members of the public, the exit of the building this evening is via the staircase located through the double doors behind me here. Okay. This meeting is being filmed for live broadcasts on the Council's YouTube channel, and an archive version will be available to view on the Council's website after the meeting finishes. The broadcast will be suspended during any adjournments in proceedings, and if the committee resolves to consider information as exempt business. Please can everyone present in the meeting ensure their mobile phone is turned off or switched into the silent mode for the duration. First of all, public questions. Do we have any questions from members of the public this evening?
Doesn't seem like we do.
No, they've perhaps all gone home. Okay. And petitions. I believe we have.
We don't have one now. No.
We were supposed to, but we haven't anymore. So no petitions. Item 3, apologies for absence. Please can I have any apologies for absence for the meeting?
Yes, Chair. Apologies from Councillor Giles, Kim, Sillett and Park.
Thank you very much. Members are asked to declare any disclosable pecuniary interest or any other registrable and non-registrable interests relevant to items on this agenda. Do members have any interest to declare? Please indicate now. Councillor Coogan, did you? No? Did you?
Yes. If it's regarding the Tamil Heritage Fund bid, obviously I'm from the Tamil community and it's something that we celebrate because it orders living language, but I will not be voting on anything. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, but you're going to stay and
Yeah,
listen.
if that's all right. If you want me to leave, I'm happy to leave.
You can stay.
No, that's fine.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Right, minutes of the previous meeting held on the 2nd of October. Can I take those as a true and correct record, please? Yep. Thank you. Okay, item 6 is neighbourhood grants, which is the main item on the agenda tonight. We have 5 community grants this evening. Members will note that there are not enough funds remaining in the budget this year to approve all applications in their entirety. Each year, the committee has £20,000 of neighbourhood community grant funding available to award. The committee has spent £14,508 and has £5,492 remaining. The amount requested in this report is to the value of £14,100. To ensure each application is considered fairly tonight, I'm proposing that we will first hear from each applicant in turn, where members will then have the opportunity to ask questions or make comments. And after this, we will go back to the first application and come to a decision for each application in order that they have been received. So the first application is from Amber B for £3,000, as set out in paragraphs 5 to 30 in the report. And I'm going to ask Ralph Hyde to introduce the application. Do we have the applicant here? Okay. Thank you. Come and take a seat, please.
Thank you, Chair. Amber B, community interest company supporting children from the transition from infant to senior, well, junior school to senior school. It's been so long time since I've been at school. Through various activities at schools. I've already been granted some funding through Surbiton, and they're here to apply for funding from us. And I'll let Lasma answer any questions.
Thank you. There's no real sort of, but just keep it simple. Yeah, there's no real timing on it. Thank you.
It is, okay, just making sure. I do have the actual interactive workbooks here if you'd like to take a look, and I've got the some quotes from the schools to identify the need in those schools. If you'd like to take a look, I can show you after. Yeah. So the reason, what I'll just do is just highlight the need for why these are projects that are needed in the schools. New NHS figures have revealed that the number of children referred for NHS mental health treatment nationally rose to 39% in a single year, from 839,000 in 2021 to over 1 million in 2022. The data includes children suffering with depression, anxiety, and eating disorders. And that's from the Surrey County Council Children and Young People's Emotional Wellbeing and Mental Health report in 2023. Another thing that we look at, what we aim to do is early intervention, because we feel the 9 to 11-year-olds, that's quite a pivotal point in a child's life, because that is when they are on their journey to move on to to high school, which is quite a jump in terms of social, what's the word? I've gone blank. Social interaction, yeah. From my conversations with primary schools, they have identified that a lot of children, ever since lockdown, there's been a huge need for things around mindfulness, a lot more for that, because it's just not the same now for children. They're just a lot less engaged, a lot more secluded, isolated, and teachers are finding it a lot more difficult to reach out to the children and actually get through to them and feel confident in that child's ability to be able to manage such a social jump from primary school to high school, which is why we like to do what we're doing as well. What we also try and tackle is antisocial behaviour. So the Kingston antisocial behaviour crime statistics of May 2024 say that the area's crime rate is 17.6% compared to the national crime rate average. Of all the reported crimes in Kingston, 17.2% of it are made up of antisocial behaviour, and that's for the period of June 2023 to May 2024. So what we want to do is create a more cohesive community, because this not only affects the child's life, but that of those around them, so the parents and the guardians as well, which is what we try and aim to do, because that's what our workbooks do as well. So not only the teacher packs, the workbooks involve parent-guardian activity.
Thank you very much for your presentation. Sorry, I didn't catch your name.
Najma.
Najma, pleased to meet you. Right, so we'll go straight to questions from members I saw Councillor, Councillor Bolton. Thank you.
I don't want to step on Councillor Massimi's toes. I've done that in the past and it never ends well. But thank you, Najma, for your presentation. Really, really good organisation that you're representing tonight, and thanks for coming along to explain it. As you've already heard from the Chair, we don't have enough money to meet everybody's needs, but I would certainly, we're not deciding directly after she leaves the desk on the money, are we? We're doing that right at the end. But certainly when we come to allocate some money, I would be very much disposed towards granting some money to your scheme. And just as an aside here, I note that 3 of the primary schools that you're working in, they're all in this neighbourhood, but 3 of them in particular are in my ward, 3 excellent schools, Coombe Hill Juniors, Corpus Christi and Christchurch as well. So I'm very pleased to see that. But certainly, thank you for coming, and I'm definitely going to consider helping you have some of the money, but of course we don't really have enough to give you everything you're asking for tonight.
Yeah.
Councillor Massimi.
Thank you, Chair. Well, thank you for the presentation, and I think the quality of the paper is also very good. We've got a clear breakdown of who might be supported, where the funds might go, and I think your presentation mentioning early intervention and having a cohesive community resonate well with all, if not most of us here tonight. So I think it's a really good project. The fact that it's basically almost done by volunteers only, and like my colleague says, covering the 6 key schools nearby, including 2 very, very good ones in Malden. It's great. I really like the sound of it, and I agree with early intervention and helping that transition. So it's a good concept. I think it's the first time we have it here. Well, sounds good. If I could afford it, I will probably support it fully. But I'm like my colleague aware that we're going to have to try to pick the best from the good tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else before I ask my questions? No? Yeah, so you mentioned, well, it mentions in the report mindfulness and that, but then you went on about statistics and antisocial behaviour and things like that. Mm-hmm. How does that fit in with your programme?
So one of the big things that we look at is internet safety as well. With some of the schools that we have spoken to and with the crime rate, that's what mindfulness looks at as well. I had quite a good conversation with Mrs. Englefield in Coombe Hill Junior, and she said, well, that's a great way to look at it, because your mindfulness, that teaches a child kind of right and wrong, and also it helps a child's decision-making abilities as well.
Thank you. And my other question is, you are a corporate charity. Have I got that correct?
We're a not-for-profit organisation.
Right. But where would you normally source your funding for these projects?
I go through councils, grant-making trusts. That's
one I didn't catch.
Grant-making trusts.
What are they? I've never heard of those.
Charities. We've worked with National Rail before.
So you'd work with other charities?
Yeah.
Okay, and you're a charity though, or not?
No, we're a community interest company.
Right. Okay. All right. Thank you very much indeed. Any more questions? No? Thank you very much indeed for presenting. If you'd like to go back and take a seat, and we'll move on to the next application.
Thank you for your time.
No, not at all. Thank you. Application 2 is for a grant of £3,000 as well from Disability Challengers, as set out in paragraphs 14 to 21 of the report. Is anybody here for... Hello, your name is? Kath. Pleased to meet you. Please take a seat, and our Neighbourhood Manager will introduce it. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Disability Challengers, represented by Kat, are an charity who are currently supporting at least 21 people within the borough. Basically, I would say, giving them life skills and confidence within the community so that they can engage and be a part of the community. Currently running from King's Oak Primary School. And I'll let Kat give a very brief overview. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. So I work for Disability Challengers. We're a charity that work with disabled children and young people to provide play and leisure opportunities. A lot of the young people that have attended our schemes have been excluded from other mainstream sports and leisure and play opportunities. At the heart of Challengers is our non-exclusion policy. So we welcome every disabled child and young person despite the severity or complexity of their needs. So the project that I've applied for is for our Kingston youth scheme. We currently support 6 young people from KT3 postcodes who attend the scheme. And the project is a sports project, so we're really focusing over the course of 2025 on extending the provision of our physical activity opportunities. So whether that be sports or swimming or football, we're trying to really get young people moving. So the focus of applying for our youth scheme is because the gap in activity levels between disabled and non-disabled young people really hits an all-time high as they get older. So we offer 2-to-1 support and 1-to-1 support for disabled young people at no extra cost. It is £5 per session for a disabled young person to attend, and runs every other Saturday on dates over the Easter, summer and half term. We have a really strong base of volunteers and youth workers that work for us. And yes, I said that's a summary of our project.
Any questions? Councillor Bolton.
Yeah, thank you very much, Kat. And I don't want to sound like a broken record, but I think this is another wonderful scheme which I'm fully planning to support when we get to that stage to the extent that we can. Just a point of clarity, I think you mentioned 6 children in KT3. Now, our neighbourhood, actually, you possibly don't know, but it has lots of other postcodes as well. Part of my ward, for example, most of it's KT3, but some of it's KT1, and we have KT4s, we have quite a bit of others. So just to make you, but you do say 21 in the neighbourhood generally, which is the bigger figure to look at, isn't it? The other thing, Kat, you say that it's based... The scheme runs from Kings Oak Primary, which is a good school right next to my ward, actually, Kings Oak. But it's based in Kings Oak, but how many from Kings Oak use the facilities? Do you have that to hand?
Not entirely sure on
That's all right, but you're in that school anyway.
Yeah.
Good, thank you.
Councillor Tracy.
Oh, thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, I mean, I'm not against this. I've got 2 disabled grandsons, so I'm very much for, you know, helping disabled people. But my only worry is, obviously, money is really tight. We haven't got, you know, enough to give everybody everything. I'm just concerned that when I add it up, the majority of the money seems to be on staff costs, 9,400 practically on staff. That's a worry. That's my only worry. It's not that I don't think you do a good job, but that's very high staff costs to me.
So our staff are at the heart of what we do. We have a dedicated training manager to make sure all of the staff are able to provide 2-to-1 and 1-to-1 care. And yes, it is our biggest cost, but it's our most important cost at the end of the day. So thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else before I ask a question? Councillor Massimi.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, Kat. Can you just let me know, have you been running that project before and for how long, if so? And what success looks like, if I may ask, or when does it end in a way, you know, what do we try to achieve? Thank you.
So we've been running our scheme as a youth scheme for many years. I don't know exactly when we started in Kingston, but we provide this project is for a sports project, but we've been running just general youth clubs for a while. And in terms of success, we monitor it in a way of case studies, attendance records, and hearing from parents as well. We're a real lifeline for parents, so that's how we get our feedback as well. But we've been running for quite a while in Kingston. Thank you.
Thank you. I have a quick question. Yeah, I noted the staff costs seemed quite high for that. Did you say that it was a 1-to-1 ratio?
So we provide 2-to-1 and 1-to-1 ratio,
Okay.
depending on who's attending the scheme on that day.
And the equipment costs of 602 and 205, what do they sort of relate to? What sort of equipment are we talking about?
So for this project, it would be sports equipment. So whether that be footballs or tennis rackets and any kind of provision in that sense.
They still seem a bit high. I mean, I don't know how many children are we talking about and how many tennis rackets and footballs, because I realise sports equipment can be expensive, but if you're only talking about half a dozen, I just wonder where those costs are coming from, that's all.
So the activity cost will be as well for going to like swimming, for example, or a trampoline park, where costs are higher and a one-off cost.
So an a going out activity is what I'm trying to say. Yeah, okay. Anything else you'd like to add?
No, that's it, thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? No? Okay, thank you very much. Kat, was it? Yeah, Kat or Kath?
Cat.
Cat. If you'd like to take a seat back, and I'll call the next applicant up.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. Do we have an ADHD? Oh.
Good evening.
Oh, yeah. So this is for a community grant, also for £3,000 for ADHD Embrace, as set out in paragraphs 22 to 32 of the report. And I'll ask Ralph just to give a brief introduction. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. ADHD Embrace, a small community support charity working with families and people diagnosed with ADHD to overcome the isolation and rejection, I would say, that they feel within communities, again, following on similar themes to disability challenges, so they'll be included within the community and take part on everyday life. And would you like to follow up briefly?
Sure, I'll just introduce myself. My name's Annette Wilson, and I'm actually the founder of ADHD Embrace. When my journey with ADHD started when my son was diagnosed at age 5. So I've got lived experience, and I'm pleased to say 20 years later, we have actually built the organisation. We initially operated as a voluntary group, and we're now a charity, which we formed a charity 4 years ago. And our approach is very much a holistic approach to support the child in all spheres of their life. Firstly, for the parents, also in their communities and the professionals that are working with them, and then also working with the children. The application we've put in is specifically to support our school's outreach program, which we launched about 3 years ago, where we were seeing increasing numbers of children being excluded from school, or children suffering from school avoidance. And this has been going on for many years. You know, my son went through several situations of being excluded from school. And over the years, we've really sort of met lots of teachers, we've talked to lots of parents. And one of the things we identified was that unless we can actually do something with the school community, we're not going to move the needle. And so that's when we launched the Schools Outreach Program, where we've actually now go to schools. Actually, shall I just clarify? Teachers now, actually, when they have their teacher training, they learn about the various disabilities like ADHD, autism, dyslexia, all of that. So the teachers actually understand what it is as a definition, but they're not given any tools as to how to support these children in the school. So teachers are really, we have very experienced teachers, who just find dealing with ADHD children very difficult because they've never really had to focus on that. And as you know, teachers have hugely complex jobs trying to cover, 30 children. So our schools outreach program is to go to schools where we offer school visits, and we offer to train the teachers and the staff. Firstly, to tell them more about the condition so that they've got a more in-depth understanding, but also teaching them strategies on how best to support the children in the classroom so that they can access their education. But also, in areas like the playgrounds when things fall apart. So we've been incredibly successful, and I think, the impact we are having in working with the schools have been immense. The other thing we've done with the schools is the schools are hosting coffee mornings for parents, because we see very often in certain communities, parents are in total denial that there's a problem or that their child needs support. And so we are sort of reaching a community that we previously would not have reached. And so the interface we've got, and I think Ralph, when he was, finding out more information, was keen to know if there were specific schools that we work with. It's very much, we leave it to the schools to invite us in. We promote our services very widely to the schools. But it's not part of their formal training process, that they normally have, the government mandated programs that they have to do. So this is more voluntary training that schools put on. And so in the last 2 years, we've seen we've seen 50 and 55 schools. So it's been, we've had very strong uptake. And so what we're coming to you is really, we've done the costings for the overall schools project, which we run over Richmond and Kingston boroughs, because we work over these 2 boroughs. And we've looked at the historic take-up in Kingston schools, and we've applied a percentage to say that we think, we've got because of what's happened in the last 2 years, we have no reason to believe that we're not going to have the same uptake in the next year, next 12 months.
Thank you very much. Questions from members, please. Councillor Durrant, then Councillor Bolton. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I think this is a very worthwhile charity. It's been in the news this week, hasn't it, about ADHD meds and lack of that. There's been a lot of coverage of that on Radio 4 this week. My question is just about geography. Is it possible that, obviously this is the new and old Malden Neighbourhood Committee, can we try and make sure that this goes within the area of this Neighbourhood Committee, if possible?
I have a lot of sympathy, because you want to make sure that your residents are being supported. All I can say is, for example, Richard Challoner, where we're tonight, we've trained it here. A number of the other local schools that have been mentioned, we visited them, but it is up to the schools to invite us in. So we can't actually commit to a quota, because I think it is up to the schools to invite us in. We've got very good relationships with the school, and in our application that we sent in, we've got various quotes, and we can certainly share more feedback from you. So I've got no reason to believe that the uptake will decrease.
Councillor Bolton.
Thank you very much. And yes, in fact, that was sort of the question I was going to ask as well. So thank you for that. I completely understand how that works. Well, not completely, but I understand what you said. So thank you for that. And again, one of the best things about being a councillor is having the opportunity to hear this kind of stuff. It's not necessarily the kind of thing I would have known in my ordinary life. So thank you for coming to explain it to us. And I shall certainly, again, be supporting it to the extent that we can tonight. Thanks.
Thank you.
Anybody else got any questions? I have one. The staff costs, 5,489, and the teachers' seminars, 10,360. They seem quite high to me. Are these all paid staff? You're not got any volunteers or
we do.
Whatever? Why are the costs so high, please?
If we look at the different aspects, so our teacher seminars we do jointly with Kingston University, and we've had a strong endorsement from the education faculty, where we work very closely with them. And it's really just, if you look at the planning costs to put up on the seminars, the moderation, we run them throughout the school term. So it's not just one seminar that's happening. It's, there are 8 seminars, one a month.
Just interrupt.
Yes.
Are the Kingston University people doing the seminars, or are you just hiring a room there?
No.
What's the arrangement?
No. So the arrangement is we co-create the agenda, or the selection of topics that we're going to talk about, and then we secure the speakers, and they co-chair the seminars. What we then do is we host the seminars on our webinars, so that there's an element of some of our IT costs going into that, and we also record them. And then we have a volunteer who actually edits the recordings, which we then put on our website and people can access afterwards. But those costs are taken into account, and it's a promotion cost. We have a team member who works on social media to promote those seminars.
Very much, thank you. Anybody else got any questions? No? If you'd like to, sorry, I didn't catch your name.
Annette Wilson.
Annette, if you would like to return to your seat, thank you. Application is from Man and Boy for £3,000 as set out in paragraphs 33 to 41 of the report, but I believe there isn't anybody from that charity to represent. But if you wanted to just give a brief overview, Ralph, and then I'll move on to the next application. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Man and Boy are a well-known local charity set up to support families through separation and other incidents. They've received considerable funding over the years for their projects, and they want to continue with at least 5 families within the new and old Malden area. And this money would be to support the activities programme, where they build up teamwork and other skills and reduce the pressures on the family. There's links into. They've noticed that most of the children suffer from special educational needs or disabilities, and they have a well-established scheme running within the borough.
Thank you. We'll move on to the next one. Did anybody want to make any comments about this charity, or I don't know how I can ask a question because obviously they're not here to represent it. But if anybody has a comment, thank you.
My only comment, sorry, Chair, would be say I really think Man and Boy is a great charity, and I'm sorry that they're not here tonight to explain again to us just how good they are.
Yeah, I think I'd agree with that. They are a really good charity, and it's a shame that somebody couldn't come and represent them tonight. Okay, thank you. And last but not least, the Tamil Heritage Fund. If you'd like to come forward, whoever's going to speak, or both of you, you can come for support. The application is for 2,100 from Kingston Tamil Heritage Group, as set out in paragraphs 42 to 50 of this report. If you'd like to give a brief overview. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. The Kingston Tamil Heritage Group is a collaborative organisation with 4 prominent Tamil organisations within the borough, set up for many years. The funding is to support a celebration which will take place at this very location.
And so I hear in January, I think.
Yeah.
Good job it's indoors. It'll be a bit warmer. Hopefully it's warmer than it is here tonight, because it isn't very warm at all. If you'd like to start and give us your presentation. Thank you.
Yeah, this is actually the Tamil Heritage celebration, which is really important for our community because that's the harvest festival. And we, like Tamil Information Center, Center for Community Development, and 2 other schools, we all join together and celebrate this festival. And this mainly, this is not just for our community. We just invite all the local neighbourhood and everyone to take part and understand our culture and, to mix with other communities. And so that it's really like one of those functions that we, mix with other communities. And what else? Do you want to add anything?
Yeah, I mean, it's happened for the past 2 years. I've been part of the Tamil schools since I was 3 years old. I'm now 29. And so growing up in the community and having an opportunity for all of us to get together and kind of bring in the new generation of children who really want to get in touch with their Tamil roots. I know it was a big impact on me and my friends growing up, having that opportunity to kind of all get together and also just bring in friends from our other communities to these events. And it's been really successful the last 2 years. I think we've had over, 500 people, maybe 600 people coming in. We've had it in New Malden. Lots of food, dancing, trying to get everyone involved. So, yeah.
Thank you very much. Anybody got any questions? Oh, rush of hands. Councillor Thorpe, I haven't heard from you tonight, so you can go first.
So it was huge fun last year, and it was huge fun the year before. But it was so cold.
Exactly.
It's harvest.
Yeah.
So are you going to be partly indoors this time?
Yeah, because last year all the marquees and everything blew up.
Blowing a gale, wasn't it?
We couldn't really do anything. So this year we decided to have it in here, in the same
Well,
building.
you know what will happen? It will be a beautifully sunny day.
Yeah. Unfortunately, January. Unfortunately,
you were very welcoming.
January.
Last year I was deputy mayor and it was great. You really looked after us very well. But gee, it was cold.
It was
we did
cold.
ask last year if you could move the festival, but I know you can't. We're stuck with January.
Yeah, because January is the main our harvest festival, and it's all over the world. We are celebrating together, so it's just bringing everyone together.
That was my question. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mike?
That's okay. Thank you, Chair. Good evening. The Tamil community, alongside many others, are a massive part of a neighbourhood. My question is more technical questions. You say you want to have wider outreach than just Sunny Hall, Malden, or nearby. Why are you only aiming to get grants from here and a very tiny one from another neighbourhood? Why are you not spreading the net and contacting all 4 neighbourhoods, especially this late in the year where you are more likely to get partial funding and then join the dots? That's because I can see here you have incomes from New Malden neighbourhood, potentially £2,100 if I'm correct, £600 from Surbiton.
Yeah.
There's a few more neighbourhoods that are not mentioned whatsoever, and I just wonder, because of the time and the finance, it might make sense to spread your net.
Other neighbourhoods.
Other neighborhoods. Yeah, they like Sutton, they do their own, because different councils, they have their own, celebrate their own festivals on the same time. So we can't just there's Walthamstow, they have their own. So all those communities, they do their own. So this is like in Kingston, there's a lot of Tamil people living here. So we want to...
I think, Councillor Massimi, do you want to explain about the neighbourhood? Because that's important. It's all the same place. It's not a different council.
So I think there's more than just 2 neighbourhoods that you can reach out to.
Which are the other?
I'm happy to give you this at the end, but I mean that you've there's much more out there that might be able to help. Don't quote me on that. And this is basically what I'm trying to say is don't just look at Surbiton or New Malden or Malden. There are a few more. And so I'm just saying that might help to join the dots if you were not able to,
Chessington, all those.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right, okay. Yeah,
For example.
Yeah. Okay. I didn't mention that, but, we have 2 Tamil schools. All the people from Chessington and all the other areas go to Kingston Tamil School. And the people from New Malden and Cheam, the areas. So it actually covers, both Tamil School covers all the whole lot of Kingston. And they are part of our, this Tamil Heritage Unit. So we include everyone. We don't, miss out anyone. It's just completely...
Chair, if I could just make a comment. It sounds to me as though this is a suitable application for a borough application, because instead of a neighbourhood application. So it's nothing to do with you, but I'm just saying, rolling forward for next year, maybe we'll look at a borough application rather than just the new and old Malden. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Anybody else? Councillor Bolton?
Thank you. Just very briefly, I mean, I'm very happy to support this as far as we can. It's a fantastic festival that you organise, and I should declare a slight interest in that. I like Councillor Thorpe, been to the last two, in fact, many of the other councillors as well. Just fantastic. Very, very pleased to hear that it's coming indoors this year because thanks to my colleague here, Councillor Coogan, who's also from the Tamil community, although won't be voting on this issue tonight, she got me kitted out with a Vershti and Tamil stuff as well. So I'm very pleased to support it. I think it's just an absolute credit, not just to your community, but to the entire neighbourhood and the Borough of Kingston. So thank you for coming along and thank you for organising it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, thank you. If you'd like to go back to your seats, and then we will get on with the business. Yes, so, bearing in mind that we haven't got enough funding to give everybody the applied for amount, if anybody wants to vote individually on each one, please say so. Otherwise, I will suggest and propose that we divide the money up equally by 5, and then all the money is done with. If anybody, I've got shaking heads, so
Chair,
you want to have an individual vote.
Chair, if you don't mind if I say something, I would be happy enough dividing the whole amount by 5, although probably more happy dividing it by 4, the 4 groups who came along tonight to speak to us, which I think just roughly would give them all about 1,300 each, I think.
Yeah, I
roughly.
worked it out for 5, but we can work out for 4. Does anybody not want to do that?
I think there was a precedent that the last time someone came and asked money and they weren't there, we didn't give
Yeah, no, those people who have come and they've made the effort. It's a miserably cold night. Then, is everybody happy for that?
Do you want to say what the amount is?
Yep, I will. So I propose that we have an equal share of the amount, and it's £1,373 per application.
Yep.
Those in favour, please raise your hands.
It's unanimous, Chair.
Yep. Unanimous.
Thank you.
Unanimous.
Oh, she's not voting.
She's not voting.
Thank you. So, I apologise that it isn't the full amount, but I'm just going to say that some of us, myself I'm talking about. What? What's the matter?
I just wanted you to the remaining balance.
We haven't got a balance.
No,
That's it.
everything's gone.
That's the pot empty.
Before that. Was it not 8,000?
No, that's the minus.
That's a minus.
Come on, Mike. Oh, is that your girlfriend? Is that your girlfriend with the red dress?
Yeah.
Right. Back to our maths lesson as we're at school. No, so the amount would be 1,373. I myself have some council award funding in my pot, as do some other councillors. Some councillors have already allocated their money. So if you would like to apply for those, I can give you my name, or it's in the papers, the names. It's just name.@kingston.gov. And I'm sure councillors will be happy to perhaps top up some of those amounts for you. All right? So I hope that's okay with everybody. Good. Right, so moving on to the Neighbourhood Manager's Report. I'm going to introduce and not forget Ralph Hyde. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair. I'm going to keep it very brief tonight. I'll provide the Rangers report at the next meeting. That will give me time to collate all the figures and make it relevant. I really just want to promote the Santa light switch on tomorrow. I hope you can all attend. I'll be there. Chasing Santa down the high street.
If you could just give the times and the place and the sort of...
3:30 it kicks off. 5:30?
It kicks off 3:30 in Jubilee Square.
In Jubilee Square.
And then goes down, doesn't it?
The switch on is at 5:30.
5:30. Yeah.
Councillor Henderson, did you have some involvement last year?
I did. Just like it's going to be tomorrow. Anything else?
No, thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, everybody. There are no urgent items this evening from me, so I close the meeting at 21:30 in exactly an hour. Thank you very much for attending, and thank you all the applicants for coming tonight. It's such a cold, miserable night, but thank you very much for coming. Thank you. Bye-bye.